Hello everybody, I'm Miranda the Hybrid, and welcome to Art Talk. So today I'd like to address what has become a pretty touchy subject online, traditional art versus digital art. Now, I know the complaints from the traditional artists. They say that digital artists, it's not art, and of course then that obviously insults the digital artists. Now this is something, and I have 250,000 followers on TikTok, and I see them argue in my comment section all the time about it, especially when I make a video showing like the brushes in Procreate, and it's become a little bit irritating. So I wanted to give my full, undisclosed raw opinion. And if you get offended, sorry. What I think is basically all art is art. It doesn't come down to what material you're using, it comes down to how you use it and the expression and emotion and intent you put into it. For instance, let's put this into a different perspective. Back in the 1500s or before that, you had to pick up special colored rocks, grind them up, mix them with egg yolk or something, and use that as paint. And the artists, if you were a rich artist, you'd be able to buy those paints. And rich meaning you were being hired by the king or the queen or whatever ruling, or especially the church. Back then, the church paid for a lot of stuff. That's why so many really great artists have a lot of religious work, is because the church was the only one that could really pay for their materials and their time. But that's besides the point. So you're looking at people from a long, long time ago. And so when, I guess, paint shops started popping up, I'm pretty sure that the older artists were like, well, you didn't grind those rocks and mix that paint by yourself. You're not a real artist, you're getting it easier. And then when other technological advancements happened, such as, let's say, markers, suddenly you had hundreds of different colors available in a stick that you could buy for a relatively small amount of money compared to how much you would pay for a tube of paint. And I'm pretty sure that irritated the painters. And then what about the old-fashioned animators? Like Snow White, everything there was hand-drawn. Everything was hand-drawn. The backgrounds, the backgrounds were put on pieces of glass that were slowly moved to create, with the characters in between them to create the foreground and background movements. And these days, you have programs where you can paint, even if it's traditionally, you can paint or draw your different backgrounds, put them on different layers, and have the computer move them for you. I'm pretty sure that pissed off a lot of traditional animators. And so what you're seeing with digital art these days is just another advancement of materials. The art comes from in here and from in here. It doesn't change what you're doing it with. For instance, and I really do understand why the traditional artists are upset. I'm recording this on the iPad Pro right now because I don't have a better camera. And I have 150 different kind of brushes in one device. And this thing, right up here, this Apple Pencil, I can change back and forth with a double tap between eraser and pencil. I mean, that's technically the equivalent of just doing like that. Haha, it's going backwards in technology. But at the same time, I get it. I get it. It's frustrating. I, for a while, was kind of on the bandwagon of, it's digital art, so, it's a lot easier. And the only thing that's easier is that you have, sorry, I'm taking my socks off, I'm really hot right now. The only thing that's really easier is the fact that you get more variety of materials in a smaller bundle. And they're not always that accurate. On my TikTok, I have done reviews, and I did a review that absolutely blew up. I've done some pretty big reviews about the different kind of brushes in Procreate. And, it made me realize that some of those brushes don't correctly represent the traditional brushes. Like, recently I did one comparing the 6B pencil in Procreate versus a 2B pencil just traditionally. And you know what? The traditional one was it was actually easier to manipulate it. I think the biggest advantage that digital art actually has over traditional art is the speed, the lack of mess, and the undo button. That undo button is a lifesaver, and I'll admit it, I use it a lot. I don't know if you could call it me being a lazier artist at this point, but it definitely changes my approach to how I make my art. When I pick up my Wacom Intuos Pro, which is sitting out of view here, or the iPad, which is recording, I know that I can make a mistake and either Control-Z or double tap it, and it'll go away. Now, when I pick up, say, one of my sketchbooks, and I have a lot of them around here, when I pick up one of those and I grab a ballpoint pen and I start drawing with a ballpoint pen, I know that I have to go very, very lightly and plan out more carefully what I'm drawing because I don't get that double tap. I do not get that Control-Z. I think that's the biggest difference. And also, you kind of have built-in rulers, not gonna lie. Like, just being able to go into the settings and, you know, press drawing assist and suddenly you draw and it's exactly the same, you know, it's perfectly straight. That is an advantage, I admit. It's kind of like having an entire drawing desk. I don't know if you guys ever had to take AutoCAD or, you know, how to design a house or something in, you know, in one of the supplementary courses in, you know, younger school. But you know how they had those big desks and the desks had a slidey ruler that went this way and they would help you draw straight lines? That's essentially what the, you know, what technology is giving us right now, except it's pressing it into a tiny little package, and a package that in the end actually is less expensive. Let me explain. Let me grab some materials for you and I'll explain this all. Okay, got everything. Actually, I only got about a third of my traditional art supplies. So, this iPad Pro I bought is the 2019 model, the 12.9 inch. The newest one is the 3rd generation. That cost me about $1,200. This Apple Pencil was $120. Together with taxes and with all the wires that I have running everywhere, because I do actually have a lot of extensions that I use for it for both audio and video, it was about probably $1,400. Yeah, $1,400, $1,500 ballpark. So $1,500 for this marvelous piece of technology and the technology that went into it, because I paid for Procreate. So you're looking at, and actually I paid for a lot of other things. I paid for a lot of technology and a lot of different programs on there. So let's round it to $1,500, okay? Now, each one of these Tombow pens costs about $3. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, we have about 50 of them. This bag costs $150. It's $150, and it's not covering the full spectrum of pens I want, nor are these refillable. So I have to keep buying them over and over again. Now we have Copics. I have to put them in a bag because my organizational thing is left back at home in Pittsburgh. But okay, so we have the Copic Kaio, I think is how you pronounce it? Sao? I think it's Kaio. Each one of these costs about $5 on sale. I don't know how many I have. I have Copic Sketches. Each one of these costs about $6.50 to $7. And then I have like 2 or 3 of these bulky ones, which are still not the original ones, but these cost probably about $8. And you multiply that by this, and you're probably looking at 250, way more than 250. What am I talking about? Give me a second, more counting. Jeez, there's so many of them. What was my wallet thinking? Actually, it's not my wallet's fault, it's my fault. Oh my god, did I really spend all this money and then not use these materials as much as I wanted to? Ugh. By the way, don't think I actually had the money to buy these. I bought them on credit and I've spent the last 2 years paying it off. This is horrific. I have so many, and I haven't sold a single piece made out of marker yet. Mostly because I don't advertise myself. If you want to rent me for commissions, rent me. If you want to hire me for a commission, I'm always up for it. There's more. Because the nice thing about Copics is you can refill them. That's the good thing. 4 big ones, 21 of these, and 35 of these. Ouch! Did I really spend that much? This is about $350 worth of markers. 350! And then 150 of Tombows. Good lord. Oh yeah, and then we have watercolors. I think these were expensive. I'm gonna peg them at about $25. Wait, but there's more. Fancy Prismacolor lining pens, and a bunch of other different kinds of lining pens. So I'm just gonna estimate that at $75. Oh, but you thought we were done, right? Do you know how much mechanical pencil refills are? I don't either, but I think they were about $3. And I have a lot. Oh wait, we have Le Pen colored pens. This is probably worth about $70. And we have some really rather nice colored pencils in here. In fact, 3 bundles of different kinds of colored pencils. And I remember each one of these ones specifically cost a lot of money. And you're multiplying that by about 20 again. So I'm just going to estimate that this is $130 worth of colored pencils that I don't use. And the final thing that I brought was the refills for the Copics. And I have 3 of these, and then I have a bunch of extra nibs. So if I had to estimate, this is about $40 in here. And that is just what I showed you on camera. I have a $70 watercolor pad back there. So let's add that, 70. And then the sketchbooks I like using are about 12. The Bristol board I like using is about 30. And then there's just, I can't keep listing. I have so many art supplies. And the fact of the matter is, I have so many of them that they would not fit in my car. But you know what fits in my car? In fact, do you know what fits in a really large purse? A drawing tablet. Now, this is an older iPad Pro. I still have it. It's one I bought with my own money. I honestly prefer the newest, biggest one because it feels a lot more like drawing on the sketchbook. That is something I have to admit. I miss the feeling of drawing on paper. But this one, so yeah, this one was one of the older, smaller ones. I think it's a second generation, and the one we're recording on is that third big generation one. And still, if I have a bag, basically any kind of bag, I can fit the iPad Pro in that bag. All I need is a charger cable. That's all I need. And I have 1/4 terabyte of storage to work with, which is a lot of storage. And so, essentially, what digital art has done is taken an entire room full of art supplies and crushed it down into a thin, expensive tablet. They are expensive. And that is one of the reasons that I've started moving over to do digital art so much. It's a huge advantage. And let's go dig into my memories here. I don't think it's a good idea for younger artists to jump immediately to digital art. You really, and please don't take this personally and take it to heart. Take it from somebody who drew for 13 years traditionally before they moved to digital art. And even then, my first 5 years of digital art were hell. I did not do very well. It's not like it's going to make you better immediately. You have to practice, just like with any other material. Learn your traditional art first. You're not going to know how watercolor or pencils behave until you know how they really actually behave. Because, I'll be honest, the materials in the program aren't exactly like they are in real life. They're their own thing. They work beautifully, but I wouldn't call the watercolor brush in Procreate actual watercolor. It does not work the same way. Now, other artists have, like really nice dedicated artists, they have sat down and they have actually gone and painted and then compared it side by side and adjusted the settings and made their own brushes. And they sell them online, and I'm probably gonna go buy some and never use them like I do with all the other art supplies I have. But it's really, please, you need to know your basics of art. Learn about anatomy, learn about color theory, learn about composition, light, shadow. It's not like when you jump into digital art, you suddenly become a way better artist. That's not how it works. Your art is made a little bit easier, and you have a wider berth of materials, and there's always the beautiful magical undo button, but it's not going to make you a better artist. Your hand control really matters. I mean, really matters. I can pull a gorgeous straight line with a regular technical pen, which I do have. Doing it with this is a little bit difficult. It's very sensitive. You have to recalibrate the pressures of your hands versus what you do with traditional art. And another difficult thing that drives me a little bit crazy is I can't twist. At least not on this. I can do it on my Wacom Intuos Pro, but I can't go like this and twist it, and the brush won't twist. That irritates me. Apple, if you ever see this, please make a twisty function. All it's gonna take is 2 diodes. Anyhow, yeah. So, learn your basics first. And this is for you traditional artists also. Digital artists aren't automatically better just because they have a tablet and a wider library of materials to use. You know what? That reminds me, we never did the add up of all the things that I have. I wanted to do a price comparison. Let's do this. 70 plus 75 plus 23 plus 356, ouch, plus 150 plus 70 plus 70 plus 130 plus 40 plus 12 plus 30, and now we have to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 5 times 11, not 5 times 12, $60 in sketch pads that I have. And now we have to add up for the materials I have back at home, which is another $140, $150 in paint alone. And look at that. We are sitting at 1,236 art supplies that I own right now, and those are the ones that I can only think of. Those are not the other ones. Funnily enough, I spent the same amount of money, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, okay. If you add in the other ones I know I'm forgetting, you're looking at the same exact amount of money I spent for this iPad Pro that I spent on all my traditional art supplies. And the traditional ones, I have to resupply. They go dry. You know, things happen. An iPad Pro doesn't go dry. And so that's one of the reasons digital art's becoming so popular. And I know traditional artists, it sucks. There are obviously advantages to your material. One thing I'm never going to get over is the fact that I can't hold my physical artwork in my hand unless I print it out. That drives me crazy. I love holding an ink drawing after I finish it and just looking at it and the way the light balances and breaks over the different materials that I've used. That's one of the most satisfying feelings, I swear. So there you have it. That's my opinion. Digital art is art. It's just a different material. It's a different kind of art. And this is following a trend that we've seen throughout all of history. Technology advances and makes things easier for people. It's just like horses to cars. I'm pretty sure the people who rode horses were driven nuts once cars were invented, or bicycles. Because, oh look, you don't have to feed your bicycle, you just have to pop out a gear once in a while if something goes bad. It's way less expensive too. And then, cars. God, cars have advanced so much. I know since I'm a gearhead, there's a huge argument between car purists and modern cars. For instance, I drive a Mazda Miata. It's an older one. It's 1999. And it still has very mechanical setup on the inside. The clutch, the shifter connects directly to the clutch. When I press on the throttle, the wire goes directly to the engine. There's no computer in between it. So it's a very pure car. There's not really any computers getting in the way of anything. There is no ABS for me to turn off. And the modern cars, the shifter, the manual transmissions really aren't as manual as they used to be. There are lots of assists. And so I think even though the cars drive just as well, there are people who are irked because what they know is getting changed. And you see this with, even politics, everything. Things are getting changed. Also, digital art is way more accessible. And by that, I mean, if you make a really nice picture, like say you sketched Leonardo DiCaprio, I don't know. You'd have to take a picture, adjust that picture, then upload it. For a digital artist, it's make picture, upload. It's a lot faster, and the colors are optimized for the screens that you are viewing it on. I'm not saying that one is better than the other. They really aren't. Art is art. I hate to admit it, but people who splash paint onto canvas, that is also art. Art is very much about what you see that inspires you. I've made pieces of art that I think are absolute junk. For instance, a really, really, really well illustrated piece of a leaf. I have studied leaves before. I had to do it in college. I did not consider it fun. I didn't consider it art. It was just my brain helping me train my hand to coordinate with my eyeballs. There was no emotion in that leaf. For me, that was not art. Some people, I think, art is a lot of the material you use and the technique that you have to use to get it down. Any traditional artist, I invite you to find one of your art friends who has a tablet and try doing as well as you would do in real life on that tablet. Pick it up, no practice. Just grab it. See if you can do just as well on the tablet. You might find that it's a lot more difficult than you think. And for the digital artists, give traditional artists a break. It's a change. And honestly, digital art does get a lot more attention online, and that can be very irritating, since unfortunately we've been conditioned to see ourselves as successful or not based on what other people's opinions are, thanks to social media. In the end, don't bug in anybody else's business. If it makes them happy, and if it doesn't affect your life, then let them do what they want. You can draw a dragon with a pen, you can draw it with the Apple Pen. You can 3D model it. The one thing you can make sure to do, all artists I'm speaking to, the one thing you can make sure to do to have better art is by practicing. I've been practicing for 20 years. My art career is older than a lot of your ages. So don't go complaining when you're not getting views when you can barely draw a dog. You need to practice. Don't expect to get fame. Just because you're using one specific material or another, it's not going to work. You are what's going to make it work. You and your practice. So don't bug each other anymore. It's driving me crazy. And really, as a person who's had a longer traditional art career than a digital art career, I can tell you there's really not that much of a difference except for efficiency. That's my opinion on that. I'm pretty sure I've made a lot of people angry, but then again, it's my opinion, it's not a fact. And that is how this entire video has worked. These are my opinions. They're not facts. You're allowed to think what you want. But maybe, hopefully, I've given you some food for thought. I want everybody to be a bit more open-minded. I don't go and look at traditional art and say, that's not art. Yeah, that's stupid. I don't go look at, for instance, games. Think of all the games that have extraordinarily beautiful color schemes and character designs and animation. You can't point to that and say that's not art. That is absolutely art. Everything is beautiful in a certain way or another, and somebody's always going to find beauty in something you might find absolutely horrendous. Just look at the Pontiac Aztek and the PT Cruiser. No tea, no shade. But anyhow, I hope that helped. I hope if you guys want to have a discussion about it in the comments, and I mean discussion, not arguing and attacking each other, then go ahead. I'd love to see what you think. And as always, enjoy your day. Try to take a deep breath and relax. Everything's going to be okay. I believe in you. I love you. We'll be okay. Go out and make sure to tell somebody that you care about them. Bye-bye.